What's up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be extending the work we have been doing on the bottom half of the upper terrace by building a massive elevator that connects the upper terrace, the mid terrace, and the lower terrace. This area is going to make building down here so much more efficient because I no longer have to climb this stick to get up to the upper terrace. I can now actually build an elevator system that sends me all the way up. And shout out to Timber Builds because this idea is coming from what I've seen in his tower, where it's a 3-tier elevator system. One is going to send me all the way up. The other is going to be a drop system down below. And then the third is going to be a bridge system that shoots up to connect to the brick that I'm currently standing on in this part of the video. So let's get into it. I started off by playing around with the cushion and where I wanted this to line up from the top level of the upper city. That way, as I extend the build down, everything lines up as intended. I had some plans to do some off-grid work, and I needed to make sure that this part of the build really lined up, because if not, it was going to be a nightmare once I tried to start building out some of the elevators, because anytime you build an elevator in Grounded 2, it's always finicky trying to get those things to line up. And as I built them out, there was a bit of an issue with the way that I had built them, to where sometimes I get stuck in the elevator, but overall it turned out really well because of the time that I took in the very beginning here, just to make sure that everything was lining up. And I didn't really have a good idea for how I wanted the walls to line up. All I knew is I wanted 3 tiers to this elevator. So I started by placing some walls to kind of enclose it and bringing those all the way down to the lower part of the terrace. This part's super easy, right? We're just doing some alignment type building and dragging these as far down as possible. The thing that I really wanted to kind of get here is I want this to be a super functional elevator. It's not complicated, but getting the alignment right was so critical. And the way that I wanted this to look was I wanted it to kind of have, again, a different look and feel for each part of it. So on the right side, I wanted it to have an elevator to jump to the bridge part. This middle section, I wanted to cover the cushion as much as possible and wanted it to kind of have a darker look to it as you drop down. On the left side, I'm going to build the extended elevator that goes all the way up to the top. So just kind of playing around with some of these entryways and these kind of half walls, allowing me to really see what I can do with this build. And as I start to add in some of the off-grid build type parts in a minute, it just starts to come alive like no other build that I've done to this point. So again, just kind of playing around with some of these wall shapes, seeing how things could line up. And overall, this part was pretty boring, honestly. It was just kind of trying to get the foundation part right. But again, it was super critical to ensure that everything that I'm doing in the next part lined up as good as it could. All right, I think I have the pattern that I want to use for this off-grid kind of exterior part of the elevator. I want to show kind of a layering effect here with some open custom windows with the pumpkin pieces on the outside. And then as I go up, I just want to use a very simple small triangle piece pattern there to kind of create these diamond type shapes up the tower. And I may kind of flip those in and out. So I may have some of these type windows up as we go on the center part. And also maybe some more diamond type patterns on the exterior to kind of flip those two patterns all the way up to give it a little bit more of a unique kind of look and feel. And I really like how this entranceway kind of came out. Of course, this would have a walkway as well. And so with this, so I think the idea here is set in stone. I think this is what we're going with for the build. And honestly, I think that if I admit it, that was probably some of the funnest building that I've done, is playing around with that off-grid stuff from a tip that Timber gave on his stream the other day of how to line these up a little bit better. And as you can see, I mean, it turned out really well. It's a little off. But he made the comment, it's not going to be perfect, and I totally agree. And that's not really what we strive for in our builds. So I'm really happy how this turned out. And I'm really excited, like I said, to have this done and see what this massive tower kind of looks like, this elevator looks like. Especially once I start branching out and adding some of the bridges to go around and connect to the stone walkway up there as well. The next part was a bit frustrating, as it always is with elevators and placing the bounce webs, but basically I was taking the time to try to line these up the best that I could for something this large in size. And if you've ever tried to build this, you know exactly what I mean. If you don't plan for enough room for the bounce web on the back side of the main wall that you shoot up. It unfortunately is super hard to line up, and the way that I built this, I probably should have given it one more half block of space, because I ended up running into an issue throughout the rest of the tower and as I went upwards, with the fact that some of the posts on the bounce web would kind of stop me from bouncing all the way to the top, which still kind of happens in the final build. But overall, I think it still turned out really well. And again, it's a lesson learned for a future elevator if I am to build another one, which I probably will, for the upper terrace. The next thing that I needed to do once I filled in the rest of the tower upwards was I needed to start playing around with how I wanted it to connect from the middle section all the way over. This part was also a bit tricky because there's of course a lot of different heights going on within this build, and trying to get everything to line up across your entire build, it is very, very difficult. So again, the way that I've connected a lot of these walkways has been to make sure that everything starts at the upper level and shifts downwards throughout the build, rather than trying to start something in the lower level and building upwards to connect. So I wanted to connect the floor directly to this part of the off-grid wall behind me, all the way over to the tower as my guide and kind of guardrails per se, before I started building anything additional to the actual tower itself. Again, that way that makes sure everything that I build in this world, the alignment is as good as it can be every time that I build something new and build these additional parts to it. So I basically just extend as much of this walkway over as I can, and then I begin to fill out, and we'll do that in a time lapse. I saw another person post this kind of bridge concept in this area on Timber's Discord. Unfortunately, I don't remember the person's name, but I am stealing their design pattern. So if the person that had this in his Discord sees this, please leave a comment below so I can give credit where credit is due. But I really, really like this archway kind of bridge system that this person showcased they had built in this area. So I started to build it again top down. And unfortunately, building in this type of pattern and way is a bit hard because you're constantly having to drop down and use your tuff, or build some of these support beams that you can kind of jump around to fill in the area. But overall, as this started to kind of shape out, as you can see here, it started to look so good, and it fills this area so much better than I could have imagined when I first pictured what I could build here and started this build out. All right, guys, now that the majority of this build is complete, I am super happy with the way that this is turning out. It looks fantastic. And if you walk underneath here once this place is finished, it's just going to be so fun to walk through. There's going to be so much detail once we complete it. And this has been the best build I've built to this point. And you should have that feeling with every new build that you work on, because you're learning these new techniques as you move forward. So once we finish building all of these columns and things, maybe even adding some additional lights throughout, this area is going to be great. And even some of this off-grid work that we've done is super simple, but it did kind of bring some additional, of course, textures, additional ways that we could kind of detail this. And I do think we need to add some additional patterns right above the entranceways and exitways right here. But overall, I am super pleased with how this turned out. And again, I think this is going to be my favorite area to kind of walk through, especially once we have those columns, because there's going to be this really cool kind of eerie feeling when you're walking here. And it really makes you feel like you're the size of the character having a build of this size, right? We're not going overkill with the majority of it, but we're making a functional bridge that really makes this area pop. And this elevator system is going to make the building between our entire area so much more efficient. All right, guys, it is time to kind of walk through the end of this project, essentially, to see what we have. And I will give a little disclaimer. I've left this part unfinished. I ran out of resources, and I don't really know what I want to do with this, because if I extend it all the way down, I will cover the walkway. So I don't know if I want to have a thinner walkway through here, or if I want to find a way, as you can see, I started to play around with some ways of doing some foundational support beams kind of across that and leave this a little bit more open and hanging. So I'll address that in either a later video or off of the video, essentially. But all in all, this area is done. Functionally, it is super good. There's some issues with the bounce elevator, as I mentioned, and I'll kind of walk through it all in a minute. But I am super happy with the way this turned out. And there's room here to grow, which is the best part about doing this type of project. So for instance, at the top up there, I don't really know how I want that elevator to stand out with the upper terrace itself. So let's jump up there and take a look at how all of this kind of functions. So if I jump up through here, as you can see, I got stuck a little bit there, but that's okay. There is so much that I can do with this, and this is not complete, right? Of course, I don't want this little box. It doesn't really look good. There's some unfinished walkways. So I need to come up with an idea of how to extend this in a later video. But the idea of being able to bounce all the way up to the upper terrace has made this so much better. We also, again, have the ability to easily drop down in the middle section here with a really cool look as far as kind of having these little like flashes go by once you're dropping. In the third area, of course, jumping to our middle section, there's also a little bit of an issue with the bounce web there, but I'm not super worried about it. It's super clean. This area looks super nice. I wouldn't mind adding some little covers on this walkway as well. But there's one other feature I haven't shown yet that I actually really like how I built this. When you wrap around here, I'll probably have some guardrails, but if you need another easy way down, again, I've opened this up as you're dropping, so you can easily use this the same way you do from the top level, again, making this place as functional as I possibly can. So I think this is probably the biggest project we've done, and looking at it again from a distance, it's my favorite. This area is becoming my favorite area. It's so unique to the upper terrace, the lower terrace essentially in this place. And as we branch out and push more builds this way, this place is just going to be really awesome and a really core part of the entire build that I have going on here. So I tried a different format today. If you like today's video and you like the kind of sky cam approach that I did for some of the time lapses, please let me know in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed.